Hi everyone, Steve Crosby here. Welcome to this episode of Monday Morning Musings. We're going to continue on relational themes. Let's talk about the beautiful little epistle of 1 John. First of all, this is an apostolic letter. I think it's one of the most underappreciated letters. It's one of my favorites, and it's been that way since my earliest days in the faith. But because Paul's letters are so deep and so rich and so nuanced, they tend to overshadow John, because John's letters, his epistles, tend to be very simple. They're written very simply. They're written in a very simple style, and they deal with something that in a very direct, repetitive, and emphasized way that isn't doctrinal. You know, Paul is the great doctrinal apostle of Christ. Well, you know, that's true, but there's a reason that there's both John and Paul in the scriptures. John's first epistle is heavily relational, and it's written simply for a reason. I don't want to get into all the tall weeds of how it's structured and language and everything, but it was written so that simple, unlearned people could retain and practice what was being said. And it's all about their relationships in the community. Their relationships in the community. And the significance to not only practical spirituality. That's how most people take 1 John. Well, you know, it's about practical Christian living. Well, John makes some pretty strong statements that are kind of a threat to many perspectives of dear brother Paul. So we're going to talk about it for a little bit. And it's along the lines of the implications of living well together and not living well together. Here's one from 1 John. Again, things that Western Christians don't take seriously. If you have an abundance of this world's goods, and you shut your compassion off to your brothers in need, John says, the love of God doesn't dwell in you. And then John says, he that does not love does not know God. It says nothing about what you prayed and how, you know, the magic prayer you prayed. John is a very practical, relational guy, and he understands that the kingdom of Jesus can't be realized in private individuality. It can't be. And you want to talk about meddling, because that verse goes to issues of our money, our right to our money, our privacy, our right to our privacy, and it goes to the root of Gnostic spirituality that says you can experience the gospel and not have anything on the plane of earth figure into it. Again, you know, you've exercised mystical forensic faith and trusting in God the Father and God the Son cutting a deal and negotiating a deal for you. The letter to the first epistle of John isn't that way. Our relationships matter. And these are threatening thoughts to very deeply held Western sensibilities. And it even gets worse, because the failure to understand these things has profound implications. For example, with turning this into a full exercise of full exposition of the wonderful first letter of John, I'll simply say this: there were problems in the community, and that's why the first letter of John was written. And here's something he said that won't get you invited to many end-time conferences. Regarding the Antichrist, he said this: they were of us and went out from us. The airwaves, Christian teaching, TV, radio, saturated with teachings on the book of Revelation. I have news for you. If you're a literalist on those sort of things, the Antichrist is not, you know, someone pushing a homosexual agenda or an abortionist agenda or a secular humanist agenda. The scriptures from St. John are abundantly clear. The Antichrist exists in the church and comes out of the church. And what is that spirit? The Antichrist spirit that says, my relationship with my brother doesn't matter. That's part of the Antichrist spirit. And it's in the church. That I can have all kinds of private spirituality and gifts of the Spirit and ministry and live a relationally alienated, uncompassionate, unengaged life with the needs of those around me in the family of God and in the world. Saints, that entire belief system is a lie. And if we would just understand that there's, in both Paul's writings and John's writing, there's only one imperative. Both Paul and John say this: the imperative is to love, not to master theology. And if you love correctly, your love will manifest in practical deeds towards others, beginning in the community of faith. Let's not be a bunch of closet antichrists, and let's take these things seriously, and let's pray about and think about what it means to exist as a human being, and see how insidious Western individualism really is when it comes to the kingdom of Jesus. Might be a great political philosophy, but it's a terrible spiritual philosophy, and the kingdom of Jesus will never work, will never manifest on a paradigm of private rights and individualism. And that's what he said. See you next time.